This is a special podcast presentation from 700WLW.com. This is Darryl Parks On Demand.
10, I'm Darryl Parks, 700 WLW. Nathan Bacharach in the studio from 55 KRC Simply Money. Your trusted money, well, at least one of your trusted money guys. He, along with his partner, Ed Fink. And Nathan, good morning. I know you're donating and devoting some time here this morning because you're heading to the heliport to take that helicopter into the Kentucky Speedway, so I appreciate the few minutes.
It wasn't easy getting sick venison to get that.
How's your private box there?
Fabulous. I'll tell you, it's going to be hot out there today.
Mm-hmm. You don't drink 24s at the Kentucky Speedway.
No, I go right for 5 hour.
Very nice.
Yeah,
very nice. Mm-hmm. All right, so bottom line here, Nathan. This past week, Obamacare was ruled constitutional by the Supreme Court. Bottom line, if this was ruled unconstitutional, was my health insurance costs going to increase?
Yes.
All right, so this was ruled constitutional. Are my health insurance rates going to go up?
You betcha.
Really?
I'm sorry. This was the easiest interview I've ever done.
Well,
yes,
Nathan,
yes,
head to
and
the
yes.
heliport. That's it. That's all I need
I'm
to know.
out of here. Thanks. Nice talking to you. Nice to see you too, Darryl.
All right. Now, this has turned into certainly a political argument, Nathan. And let's get the politics totally out of this morning, because there are certainly tax ramifications for people. There are, some of the things in this bill kind of goes against what I believe in, and you know me well enough. I mean, I think that everyone should have some skin in the game when it comes to living in a community, when it comes to paying taxes, which this really is a pretty big tax increase. For instance, Medicare tax on your salary or self-employment income is right now 2.9%. Let's see here. Starting in 2013, it's going to be almost another 1%, actually a 0.9% to be charged.
Yep.
And if you have investments, this is where you're really going to get walloped. Starting in 2013, which isn't all that far away, all or part of the net investment income, including long-term capital gains and dividends collected by higher income folks like you, Nathan, gets socked with an additional 3.8%. A Medicare contribution tax. So the maximum federal rate on long-term gains, if I'm not mistaken here, will be almost 24% versus the current 15%, and the maximum rate on dividends will be almost about 43.5% versus 15%. There goes your retirement.
Well, your retirement was gone either way, Darryl, because right now the new estimate for any planner doing a financial plan for somebody, if a couple gets to 65, we know there's a 50% chance one of them is now going to make 92, and that's $250,000 of additional out-of-pocket right now that's going to go to their health care if they should live.
Well, how many people have $250,000 in the bank?
Oh, this reminds me of when I do stuff on TV. I'll do these consumer bids about you can save $40 here and $50 here, and invariably somebody will call up and say, great series of articles, Nathan, you just saved me more than I actually earn in a year, but nice going, because there's a point when you just can't give any more at the office, Darryl. There's a limit to it, but we've got a demographic glut, and that's why I say you can play this thing however you want. We're all getting, the baby boomers, the World War II generation, everybody's getting older.
Right.
And what we're seeing here is public policy. Remember, I worked for the city before I went into, I did municipal planning before financial planning. And I'll tell you, public policy is very simple. Somebody pays and somebody benefits. The problem with health care is we know that the person who's paying and the person who is benefiting the most are not the same. You're not getting, with this, you are not getting your money's worth. You're putting a lot more into this system for somebody else than you're ever taking out of it. It's the Three Musketeers. It's one for all and all for one, except not everybody has got a sword and running around in a cape saying, great, I'm buying into that.
Well, so many people have a misunderstanding of any type of insurance. So if you look at this, take the health out of it. If you look at this as simple life insurance, you are betting you're going to die. The insurance company is betting you're not going to die.
Right. And
so you go into a pool, and they figure the percentages of this, and that's the bet. So the same thing is happening here with healthcare. or health insurance that they're betting you're not going to get sick. You're betting you're going to have heart surgery.
And invariably, you're going to need something as you get older. That's just the way it works. Now, this has been very, very profitable, and the insurance industry very quietly, and this was revealed to me by some insurance executives, know very clearly that the first part of Obamacare was great for them, and it involves those 26-year-olds that everybody says, oh, isn't this great? My kids now can be on the policy till they're 26, and it doesn't cost me anything. Wrong. Group rates quietly went up just enough to cover that new risk, and you know what their experience or the claims that were made against that was? Very, very little. And insurance companies for the last couple of years have been very profitable thanks to that regulation.
Ka-ching.
Ka-ching.
Ka-ching for the insurance companies. And,
you betcha.
And what was seen right after that ruling for Obamacare, if you were watching the stocks, the healthcare, it was a bad day that day for stocks in general. But if you looked at healthcare stocks, through the roof.
Right. Absolutely.
And meaning insurance and hospital organizations and stuff like that.
Now, I don't have the luxury of being political when it comes to making money decisions. We just got to see how they play them and make our bets. What happened this week was very clear. The hospital stocks went up because the hospitals have been taking care of the uninsured, the indigent. You look around Cincinnati, and so their stock has gone up because they're going to be getting more money. No problem. No big, brilliant conclusion there. The insurance stocks in the short term down. They've had this great system, whether you like it or not, of, well, we'll deny the claim, push it up, you got to fight, whatever, however they've been working it, and they tell the doctors what to do. That system is now going to get all changed. And so in the short term, as you know, whenever there's uncertainty, a stock will go down. But they're looking right now, if there's no changes, at $778 billion worth of additional revenue over the next 10 years. And I can tell you, because I've never seen an insurance company home office that wasn't made out of marble, they will figure how to take some of that $778 billion and put it in their pocket, as sure as God made little green apples. And the guys who are probably laughing all the way to the bank, though they have their own set of problems, the drug companies, because they signed on. If you remember in the very first part of Obama's presidency, they said, we're going to give 2% of our profit.
Right.
Oh, right. So they're going to raise the cost by 4%, give back 2%. I mean, I'm being a little too cynical.
No, you're not. Here's the reality of it. Here's the reality. They can say, oh, we're going to donate or we're going to give. They're not giving. No company, whether it's a health insurance company, it's a hospital company, whatever it may be in our world, right, no matter the business, the costs are always passed along to the consumer.
Yeah, where'd they get the money? They go to the press, so they ask Bernanke for some extra money. Look, you're going to have some extra money, we can pay for this? Not likely. So they're going to pay out $80 billion in the form of rebates back to Medicare participants. Great PR stunt, guys. But the drug companies, let's be fair, I've got the generics coming fast and hard behind them, and as they get these blockbuster drugs that are coming off of patent, they've got their own set of problems. At the end of the day, drug companies were flat. So that's how investors are playing this. It's not, when it comes to stocks, it's not red or blue. You just take a look at how the horses are lining up, and then you place your bets, and that's how it shook out.
In the state of Ohio, about 450,000 new people will have to be added to Medicaid. In the state of Indiana, it's about 500,000 people. And why is it more in Indiana? Indiana's a smaller state.
I guess
economics?
Yeah. It's all about the
numbers.
Really? By the way, don't ever play poker with an actuary. They'll know when you're going to die and what cards you're going to die with. That's the biggest problem. You've got the government statisticians arguing with actuaries. Let's take a show of hands. How many people think a government bureaucrat is ever going to outmaneuver a insurance actuary?
Never.
Never.
In fact, watch out if you're playing poker at the church festivals.
Oh, God.
The actuary will beat the church festival mafia.
They were
deal the cards.
They were counting cards long before those kids from MIT ever hit Vegas.
You know how much I made last week at a church festival? $2.
$2. All right.
$2. Played for about 45 minutes. I figured at $2, I'm out of here.
Did you donate it back to the church?
No.
Nice
all right.
guy.
So anyway, here in Ohio, let's see here. It's going to cost almost $1 billion over. I'm sorry, $1 billion over 10 years. That's right. And again, I can't figure it out. In Indiana, $2 billion over 10 years.
Well, they must have more people who will qualify.
Now, in the states, you've probably heard that the states are going to turn their backs on expanding Medicaid Mostly states that are that have Republican administrations. But the bottom line here is insurance industry, the so-called insiders, they are saying that the hospital companies and the health insurance companies, what they're going to do is force the states to expand it.
Oh yeah, listen,
because it's money to them.
This is the
check, coin, cash money.
It's the lawyer's Job Security Act. We've been hearing lately that lawyers can't find jobs. That half of the students that graduate from law schools aren't actually practicing law.
I don't feel bad about that.
Oh, I don't either. But you know something? They just got a new lease on life this morning, Darryl. Are you kidding me? I mean, all of a sudden, you ask somebody, "What are you studying?" "Oh, I'm a healthcare lawyer." Really? I mean, let's take a poll of graduating or entering seniors freshmen into a law school. I bet we'll find that all of a sudden they've changed their focus on where they've decided. Forget estate planning now. It's going to be health law management. That will be the new degree. So Medicare and Medicaid are all going to expand, but they would have expanded anyway because of the demographic bubble that we've got. And we're getting to a financial tsunami that's just going to be fabulous because we're going to have a lot of older people. They're going to need attention. They're living longer. And then we have, if you take a state of Ohio, between health care and the pension system that was indexed to inflation, and based on your last 5 years in many cases. You take those two things together.
Is that the one that lost all the money investing in baseball cards and pictures of Abe Lincoln without a beard?
That might be the one.
Okay.
Yes. That, we've got lots of tough choices because, again, who pays and who benefits? So do we want...
Well, let's look at this. How long can we push this, kick this can down the street? Because you bring up a great point. Right now we're living within this bubble. It's a huge population bubble. We have the baby boomers getting geezerly, Nathan Backrack. And
nice.
Well, but once they all die off,
right? And in the meantime,
we'll be awash in money.
We will, but in the meantime, the geezers will elect politicians that will enforce laws that won't be good for the young folks. If you want to be really cynical, we could take it that way. I don't know why we're not all organizing. Remember the Gray Panthers when we first had gray rights?
They're dead. That was back in the 60s.
Yes, it is. But
they're dead.
They could be coming around again, Darryl. You never know.
All right, so here's my problem with Nathan Backrack of 55 KRC Simply Money. Here's my problem with this. This ruling affects everyone. This Obamacare affects everyone. It's going to cost us more money in our health insurance plan. We'll find out in October when we have to go to those election meetings as far as what we can pick and choose for our health care plans. All right, this is it's designed to help the poor and middle-class people that can't afford health care. I get that. Right. However, it also, because of, how shall I want to say this? Subsidies, all right, that go to people that can't afford health care. It's basically giving them a free ride, and they have no skin in the game.
Yep. That's it. And
I don't think that's right.
It may not be right. At some point, maybe the broader discussion is how do we want to treat and how do we want to distribute the resources we have in society and to whom and how? I mean, that's it. I mean, it is a culture, not a culture war. It's a value war. When I was in high school, my sister said you can always tell how a guy, what he's going to be like as a husband. Look at how he treats his mother. Well, I don't know. I mean, when it gets down to your kids or to your neighbors or people in your community, we are going to have a discussion. How do we want to treat those people who cannot afford care,
right,
who need care? And it is a huge problem. Thankfully, I don't have to come up with the solution. But
nobody comes up with a solution. That's the problem.
But I'll tell you something. Here's something that maybe it's a parallel. Business in the 50s, income taxes in the 50s were as high as 90%. When Reagan dropped taxes from 70 to 50, that was great. That's a tax burden we could not even begin to imagine today. But we could handle it because we were growing and things were good. And it was the middle of the American century and we were smoking. Our business, we couldn't build cars fast enough. We couldn't get things out the door. We had suburbia expanding. Levitt invented the split-level ranch house in Levittown, New York. We were exploding and we could afford it. If we don't
that goes back to the 50s, though. That doesn't go back to Reagan.
Well, Reagan dropped rates from 70 to 50% when he became president. The rates were even higher in the 50s.
No, the Levittown was in the 50s.
Yes, and we see it. That was the first suburbia, but we could handle it. We could handle it because we were growing, we were moving forward, we were dynamic, we were leaders in the world. And as the words come out of my mouth, I think to myself, can we still say that about all the aspects of American business? Because if we're moving and we're growing and we're doing all the things that we know how to do with a capitalistic system, we could afford it. But if you're in a slow growth, no growth economy and you've got limited resources and you're not moving forward, all these things just will continue to compound. And the one thing I have to agree with the Greeks about, they were talking about austerity, austerity, austerity. I've never seen a business cut themselves to success. And I don't know, we're not going to be able to cut ourselves to success. We've got to get growing. We've got to figure out ways to stimulate business that's got $2 trillion plus
but is this
sitting on the sidelines.
To your point, though, is this going to stimulate business? Because now, you see, there's a lot of questions here that are not answered when it comes to business, because they really don't know. And small business overwhelmingly makes up our economy, right?
You betcha.
So now the talk is that if you have a company, because by 2014, if you have 50 employees or more, you're going to have to you must, or you'll be penalized, provide health insurance or face penalties. But the problem is, when it comes to figuring out what the true costs are going to be for these businesses, they can't figure it out.
No, the only thing that the businesses now know is that at some point they're going to have to provide the benefit and some sense, and I say that guardedly, some sense of what the cost will be. Business is great once they know what the deal is,
sure,
to figure out what they need to do when they're making a widget or a service to get it priced right, and who they can hire and how. So there's a little bit of clarity there, and it's not necessarily good news either, because it's going to be it could be a substantial expense. On the other hand, I'm sitting in a group through a PEO. They used to call them employee leasing organizations. And the best I can tell in the last 3 years, our health care costs have fundamentally not really gone up to the point where we've even noticed it, a few percentage points. And that's because we're in a group with a couple 100,000 people. Now, the difference, though, with the group I'm in for health care versus these panels is that it's admittedly a self-selected group of white-collar employees that you can make some assumptions. We, are a little bit more
educated, care for their bodies, are conscious about their health, eat healthy, right, exercise. All right.
Yeah. So we also, shall we say, they selected for risk within this thing, and it's been working great. Now, I have no idea what's going to happen to that, to our health insurance, as the pool expands, and it could well be that our health care costs will skyrocket.
It's about time.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you. But that would go to the point when left to your creative devices, people can come up with solutions. So
right,
markets can solve things if they're given some time or some flexibility, but it's a big challenge.
All right, Nathan, bottom line, more money out of our pocket.
You betcha. There's no way around it.
Nathan Bacharach of 55 KRC Simply Money. You can listen to Nathan and Ed weeknights at 6:06 on 55 KRC. Have a great weekend, buddy.
You too, man.
All right, 24 after 10. I'm Darryl Parks, 700 WL. After the storms of yesterday afternoon, lots of power out, or the outages in the tri-state, also central Ohio, Dayton area. In the Buckeye State, 87,000 without power in the tri-state. In central Ohio, about 300,000 in the entire AEP service area, about 500,000 people without power, 190,000 in Franklin County. It's going to be another warm one today. Oh, good Lord, you're going to have to open your windows. Turn the fan on. Another warm one today, looking at a high near 100. If you're heading to the Kentucky Speedway today, be aware of that. Sunscreen, sunscreen, sunscreen. And hydrate. And I don't mean 24s. Tom Davis has the news next here on the big one, 700 WLW. 700WLW.com. Check out my blog. Yes, another 24-year-old woman going after a young man. I will not call him a victim. This young man learned some life's lessons. This one happened in Oklahoma, Tulsa, at a tanning salon. Betsy Ann Brashear stripped down to stripped off everything except her sports bra and started making out with the 15-year-old. His mother was in a different tanning room at the tanning salon. So you can check out her picture on the blog at 700WLW.com, a service of Alarm Force. Well, this past week, a lot of talk about Obamacare and the Supreme Court ruling, right? So that lent cover to people like Gene Schmidt. Oh, by the way, go to my blog for that if you haven't seen it yet. Gene Schmidt celebrating the wrong information about Obamacare. Well, she watched, or she was got some info on her phone. Must have been from Fox or CNN. It was funny because immediately after the ruling, I put on my Facebook page that it was ruled constitutional. It was upheld, is the way I put it on my face. Immediately, somebody's like, "You must be watching MSNBC. You're wrong." I'm like, "No, I'm not wrong. You must be watching Fox." And at that point, I didn't know Fox got it wrong. I had no idea. Anyway, so there was a lot of cover this past week about Obamacare, and leading into July 4th. All those hard-working senators and those hard-working congresspeople like Gene Schmidt and Steve Shabbat, they want to get out of Washington. They want to get home so they can walk in the July 4th parades, for instance, in Anderson Township down Beachmont Avenue. And there, Gene Schmidt will be walking on one side of the street shaking hands. On the other side will be her identical twin shaking hands. You don't know who you're shaking hands with. Could be the sister, could be Gene Schmidt. They leave you guessing when it comes to Gene Schmidt. Anyway, so trying to get out of Dodge early and get back for their week-long vacation and the 4th of July recess, they passed a bunch of bills. One being the highway bill, which is over 2 years, $100 billion. Now, the reason they're doing this is, number one, to ensure jobs. They say it's saving about 1.8 million construction jobs on highways across the country. So, okay, all right, I get that. So what did they do besides passing the $100 billion 2-year highway bill? How are they going to pay it? How are they going to pay for it? They put that off. They figure that's as it's in this article I was reading this morning. They feel it's a, quoting, tricky decision. So they're not going to pay for it at this point. We'll get back to that. We're going to write the checks. We're going to spend the money, but we'll figure out later how we're going to pay for it. Also passed yesterday, student loans. As you know, at the end of June, the student loan rate was going to double to about, what was it going to be, about almost 7%. All right. So you figure they kept it at the current rate of 3.4%. That is the 2007 law. How are they going to pay for this? What they're doing is allowing companies to make changes in the way they calculate their pension plans. Meaning they have no idea how they're going to pay for it. Working hard for you and working hard for me, huh? Oh, boy. And speaking of taxes, I mean, I would be remiss today if I didn't bring this up and I didn't use that fateful phrase, "I told you so." On March 6th, there was a levy in my hometown of Anderson Township, a school levy. And as many of you know, the rule of this program, rule number 3, is if you vote for a school levy, you're stupid. Smilin' Dallas Jackson, the superintendent of Forest Hill Schools, went neighborhood to neighborhood, including holding a meeting in my neighborhood. There in my neighborhood, many of my stupid neighbors vote yes for the levy signs in their yards. Many of the stupid neighbors and friends in Anderson Township. In fact, there were 9,748 stupid people that voted for this levy as Smilin' Dallas Jackson, went neighborhood to neighborhood, knocking on doors, pleading poverty, in fact, holding rallies where they propped up students, including one rally at the middle school on Nagel where they created like a little ensemble of students playing music. This like a quartet. Very similar to the band playing on the Titanic as it sunk. Using the children as props, pleading poverty, needing the money. So what does Smilin' D do once the school year is over with? Well, Smilin' Dallas Jackson is a good politician because he knows you're not going to remember a damn thing he says a week later, let alone 3 months later. What he's doing is he's putting out the now hiring sign, including adding positions in administration. One position has been created to the tune of over $120,000 annually. From the retiring principal at Anderson High School, she is moving into that job. New position, $120 a year. I told you so. They plead for poverty. They need money. They will not live within their means. They will spend $1 more every time than they have in the budget. Smilin' D, Smilin' Dallas Jackson. That's what I'm going to call him from now on. Smilin' D, Smilin' Dallas Jackson, the superintendent of Forest Hill Schools, no different than a used car salesman. And I'm sorry I'm insulting you if you're a used car salesman. 17 in front of 11, 700 WLW.